Watch collecting is a journey. It really is. It's a long, meandering road, and you can take a lot of wrong turns, and you have to double back and get back on the main road again as you wander into this crazy hobby, trying certain watches, not liking. You could be obsessed with a piece for years, finally get it on your wrist, and then realize it's not for you at all. And a lot of people toy with the hypothesis of maybe going back and beginning again, starting clean. If they could rewind time and start the whole thing all over again, what they would do differently. And I was thinking about the same thing myself. If I could rewind back to the start with a clean slate, but knowing everything I know now about watches and watch collecting, would I do certain things differently? And yeah, I think I would. Certain things, yeah. What would I do if I could go back to the beginning, knowing what I know now, and start off my watch collecting journey all over again? Would I do the same things? Well, let's go through a list of things I think I would make the same decision or similar, and things I definitely wouldn't do. The Seamaster 300M was my first luxury watch, and I love that it was. It was the perfect watch to begin watch collecting. I didn't know that at the time, but looking back now, I know that that was the case. I was full of doubts back at the beginning, and I bought that piece from eBay. It didn't have a box or papers. I was a little paranoid. I was getting into something, and it was a learn as you go kind of scenario. But this watch is just, it's a beauty. And if I never bought any other watch ever after that, I'm sure I'd still be happy. It kind of does everything you need a luxury watch to do, being tough and well built and comfortable and all of these things all at the same time. Elegant with a beautiful shirt and fine with jeans and t-shirts. I would definitely say that the older one is nicer than the newer one. I made a video about this quite some time ago, comparing the 2018 and after model to the previous ones from, the 90s and early noughties. And though the new watch is a beauty and has incredible detail, amazing accuracy, the old one just has that little bit of elegance that the new one doesn't have. I thought that then, and I still think it now. I eventually sold that newer 300M, and I haven't had one since. The Speedy, of course, everybody wants a Speedy. And God knows, I've had a lot of those, including the new one. The thing about the Speedy is the vintage element. I would go directly for the one I'm well known for owning, the 861 from 1988. I think you should go for a Speedy that has some history. It's well known for the moon landing and the original 321 movement. And because of all the iterations over the years, it's really kind of moved away from that original thing. A Speedmaster is not a super robust watch. It's got a certain amount of fragility to it. It's not great on the water resistance and so on. When you're getting a Speedy, you're getting it because of that classic Speedy style and because of its connection to, the space programs of the late 50s and the 60s and 70s. I had one of the new coaxial ones with the 3861 here in the house in a box with stickers, and I never took it out. I mean, I put it on my wrist for 5 minutes and I was like, yeah, it's great, but it has no or almost zero connection to what we love about a Speedmaster. So I put it back in the box and sold it. If you're into the Speedmaster thing, you want to go back in time as far as you can. That's probably the second watch I would buy, starting all over again. The Daytona kind of haunts every watch enthusiast. It's such an icon. You feel like you need one. The more you look at them, the more you want them. But I don't actually own one anymore. And the reason why is, in the end, the Daytona wasn't for me. It just didn't suit me. Didn't suit my arm size. And it just wasn't the right thing. Maybe it's the right thing for you. Maybe you're crazy about Daytonas. I was for a very long time. And I've been very lucky to have owned some really sought after ones as well. And they're stunning pieces. They're just not for me. They don't suit me. They don't suit my constitution, my arm size, or anything like that. So That's a mistake I wouldn't make again, going down the Daytona road. Now, it isn't all sour grapes with the Daytona. I was actually quite lucky. I got the ceramic bezel with the black dial, the TIE Fighter, as I like to call it. It's about 24,000, and then got out of it at around 32. So I did fine. There was no money lost, and it actually went toward another Daytona after that, which was the Sundust dial in rose gold on the Oyster Flex. An absolutely breathtaking piece, but again, a little too small on these meat hooks. And when I sold that one on, there was a small profit on that too. So it's not like I lost my shirt on any of these Daytonas. They all served me well. It worked out fine. So all I really lost with the Daytona thing was time. I ventured down a road that was kind of a waste of time for me, other than, trying out the watch, getting to know them well, maybe making a few videos on them too, which is always a good thing. And then, of course, a little profit with pretty much all of them, I think. So I don't have any regrets with the Daytona thing. We had a good little run together, and we just had to split up, unfortunately. Panerai, one of my favorite brands, and I wish I got into them much, much sooner. And I'm talking the big ones, the 47 mil. When you've got big arms and broad shoulders, these watches just suit you way more. And the moment I started trying them on, I knew I'd been wearing watches on the smaller side for a guy like me up until then. Sometimes you just got to see yourself in a photograph or on video from the observer's viewpoint to see whether the watch actually looks good on you or not. Looking down at your own wrist can be deceiving. Watches always look bigger from that angle. Try to look at yourself in a full-length mirror with the watch, or have someone take a photo of you. Then you'll see whether the watch actually fits you or not. This PAM 587 is just perfect on me. And if I were to start again, I'd get in on these straight away. Yes, I've owned the Batman and the beloved Pepsi, and while it was thrilling to own both, and I can see why there's a crazy demand for these things, I think personally the best one out of the lot is the all black. I just feel like that's more of an all-rounder. It has that kind of deep, luxurious, dark look from it. It appears to be a Submariner at first glance, but it has these extra details like the polished center links and so on that just elevate it that little bit more, gives it that little bit more sparkle. The Batman and the Pepsi are a little bit loud, and there's something just kind of cool and confident about the all black. The other one, of course, is the root beer. I'm really in love with that watch in solid gold and in the two-tone. It's one of the few two-tone watches in the world that is equally as beautiful as its full gold counterpart. I really think the all black, the espresso, the Black Beauty, whatever you want to call it, that watch was just maybe the perfect Rolex. Now, I also got lucky with my very first Rolex, actually. It was the Yachtmaster 40 with rhodium dial and the little baby blue accents. That was another stroke of luck. I didn't know it at the time, and it took a long time and a lot of watch purchases for me to figure out, looking back, that it was maybe the best Rolex I ever owned. So, the gods are looking out for me somehow. My very first Rolex would probably have been my only Rolex if I knew what I know now. For me, the Yachtmaster 40, particularly the one in rhodium, now they call it slate, is the most impressive, most powerful, most badass looking watch that Rolex ever made. Sorry, it just is. It has that evil, powerful look that we love in a Rolex sports watch, but it's also got a lot of shine and a lot of bling and character and so on. There's something about the head shape, the way it's curved, just like a Daytona, but then it also kind of has the guts of a subby, and it has a lot more elegance than a regular sub or a GMT. I just think it's one of the best, and I thought it then, and I think it now. So I don't think I'd change anything about that. I just wish I could appreciate it as much back then when I first got it. Seiko was something I wish I got into sooner. It is a lot of fun. They are beautiful watches, and they're really affordable. Now, luckily, just as I got into them, they started opening their game. They started making like the King Samurai and the King Turtle, adding real sapphire crystal on their watches and real ceramic bezels and things like that. So maybe it was a blessing getting into these just when I did. Going back and starting all over again, fresh, Seiko is definitely still on my list. Now, when it comes to Holy Trinity stuff, like the really pricey stuff like this watch I have on here, I think I probably made the right decision. I don't really have any regrets not going into Patek and not going into Vacheron. They suit me more. I like the fact that AP are the kind of bad boy of the Holy Trinity. They're the crazy one. They're the wild one standing off to the side. They take crazy risks. They're kind of pop art. I'm glad I went for, full Royal Oak experience. I didn't do the Code 1159 thing. I went straight for the jugular. And for me, these are classic pieces. So I would probably do the same thing again. Yeah, with this watch, especially this particular one, because right after I got this, they released the 50th anniversary, but it's a thicker watch. And they changed a few details on the dial that I'm not so crazy about. This, for me, is the classic, that it has the contrasting subdials and that it's a more slender wear on the wrist. This is only 11 millimeters thick, whereas the newer ones are 12.5. And luckily, I didn't have to go down the Vacheron and Patek roads just to figure out that I liked AP, that AP was really for me. So I saved myself a lot of time and probably a lot of money just turning onto the right road there. The sub, I've had so many 5-digit versions, 6-digit, 2-tone. Look, it's a classic. I think I would probably get a sub, yes, just to have a sub in the collection. Is it the perfect Rolex? Yeah, it probably is for most. And not having one in the collection would feel probably strange. So I think I would have to get one whether I wore it or not, just to have a stainless steel sub in the collection, be it no date or whatever. Would I get my gold Submariner? It's not like I regret having it. I still love that piece. But if I had to start again, I don't know. I think people with a steel, or certainly people with a two-tone, they kind of dream of having the full gold piece, don't they? Because the two-tone is kind of halfway there, but costs a lot less than the full gold. I think when you own the full gold, you realize that it's not doing anything special. It isn't making a king out of you or anything. And maybe, some people see it as a kind of a dickhead's watch to wear, kind of like a pimp's watch or something like that. I think everyone should be just happy with a stainless steel Submariner. And if they want a bit more shine, a bit more bling, they should get a GMT. That's going to shine. It's going to bling a bit more than a regular sub. So you'll get that. It'll scratch that Rolex itch that you have, that you want people to see your watch from across the street as it glimmers in the light. So I think maybe that would be more than enough for most. Or get the Yachtmaster, because that thing bloody sparkles. Yeah, I definitely would have kept the collection under 10 pieces, definitely. Maybe the sweet spot is 5 or 6. With then, a bunch of Seikos then just for fun, surrounding your heavy hitters. At a certain point, I think the big collection was, 40, 50 watches strong. And it was a lot of money, honestly. And it was a little unnecessary, quite frankly. Now, having the channel, of course, fueled that a lot. The more watches you have, the more you can show them to your audience. So that was kind of in the back of my head too. I think personally, if I were to start again, I would just stick to 5 or 6 watches and not go beyond that. Who the hell needs more than that? Now, having said all this, the journey hasn't ended yet, has it? Things like FP Journe and Alange Sonne and so on are waiting for me out there. And maybe I'll make another video like this in a few years and the list will look rather different. And that's what the watch journey is about. But sometimes I do fantasize about having a clean slate and saving myself all that money and all that time just to figure out pretty much, now that I listed it, that I kind of had all the best watches in the first place. Quite often, the watch that's on your wrist is the least desirable because it's on your wrist. And you'd rather stare at the unattainable. So there it is, guys. Just a bit of a thought experiment. That's all. Truthfully, we can't go back in time, so it's just a fantasy. And the lesson learned here is try and be happy with the watch that you have on your wrist, because it may actually be the best watch. And give yourself a little credit for having picked it out in the first place. And stop staring at Chrono 24 every day, at other watches that are unattainable. Just be happy with what you got, for crying out loud. All right, guys, new videos coming up in the coming days and weeks. Thanks again for watching the channel. Peace and love, of course. See you soon.